Hello everybody, welcome back to Beyond the Veil Tarot and Astrology. My name is Candace Marie. Thank you for joining me on our live Saturday night session. I am so glad to be back. Tonight we are doing live astrology readings. So those of you guys who are new to my channel, welcome. Those of you guys who are members and also supporters, if you're somebody who just subscribes, thanks for joining me. Somewhere along the way, it might already be there, you're going to see an SR code scanner right here. That's to be able to get in the queue to get a reading. So we're going to be looking at astrology charts this evening. For me to be able to look at your natal chart, I need a couple pieces of information: your exact time, date, and also location of birth. Please let me know the country and also spell out the month if you can. For those of you guys who are overseas, we do it a little bit differently here in the States. By scanning the QR code, you can make a donation for a reading. So you can ask any question you'd like about a topic in your life or about a transit or a situation, and I will pull up your natal chart and take a look. We always appreciate donations. All donations go to all future production for the channel. Those of you guys who have been watching for a little while, maybe you've seen the channel grow a little bit in the last 6, 7, 8 months. Now we're putting out content almost every other day. So you're getting that Astro weekly weather report. We're doing new moons, full moons, eclipses, and I've started peppering in stuff revolving around education and also some of my Astro musings, just talking about some of my own relationships with the transit. So hopefully you guys are liking that. By supporting the channel, you're helping me reach my goal by August of 2022 to be able to be making content full-time for you guys, hopefully putting out videos almost every day. So those of you guys who have been liking, sharing, and subscribing, thank you so much for supporting. I just put out my Pluto return part 2 for the United States chart. You don't want to miss it. It's long, it's nerdy, but if you're into astrology, perhaps you would like that, especially if you would like to have a follow-up video for my first Pluto return that I did last, I think it was last summer. Man, I did it way in advance, knowing that some of the stuff that was going to happen would start actually building in the fall of 2021. So if you guys are interested in that and want my hot takes on what's happening, what's coming in here in America, I actually do I take a look at the Pluto return chart itself, compare it to solar returns and other things for this and going into next year. I decided there's going to be a part 3 because really I should be doing a follow-up sometime in July, right around America's birthday. So hopefully you guys like that. And I'm getting ready to work on the new full moon video that I'm going to be doing tomorrow. That's going to be for that full moon in Leo, which is going to pack quite a punch. Before I get started by taking people for readings, I appreciate your patience. Just a heads up, guys, we're taking people in the order that we receive them. So don't worry, I'll get to you. If you send me a PayPal and your name is different on PayPal than on YouTube, please let me know. That way I know who you are, and we can make sure that we're not missing anybody. But also equally put in your question in that memo for me. That way I'm not having to scroll through the chat and taking forever and making everybody crazy with me going through things. So please do put that in the memo. We've got Kelsey and Sang. Hey Micah, what's going on? Hey Avong or Brandon. Hey Kurt, how's it going? Hey Lynn, how's it going? Nice to see you. So yeah, before I get way too into this, I just want to give a shout out to my level 2 and 3 subscribers. You guys are awesome. You support the channel, you make it possible. And those level 3 people, you're always the first ones on the top of my list to have me answer a question. That's the benefit of being level 3. You're going to get one reading live once a month, any of the Saturdays that I'm going live, either a 3-card tarot pull or you're going to get one question about transits. It's an awesome thing to get. I didn't even realize, but if you guys go and look at my website, I'm charging $25 more for questions and you have to wait several days to get a response. So it's a pretty sweet hookup to be able to get a reading, mini reading from me once a month. So everybody who's level 3 and level 2, people like Angeli, Deanna, Paula, Harazed, Nancy Slorito, Phoenix, Jessica Martinez, Emma, and Susan Wexler, thank you very much. And if any of my level 3 people pop in, you will see them because they're going to have cool little planetary symbols so we can know who the supporters are. If you pop in at any point, please let me know. If you sign up for level 3, you get all the levels. So level 1 is just showing support. If you like the channel and you like to watch. Level 2 is you're going to show support and get a shout out. Level 3, you're going to get that shout out, and you're also going to get a reading from me once a month. You can sign up whenever you'd like. If you sign up today, then you can use that for the one reading this month, and then you can come back next month and you can alternate. Some months people want tarot, some months people want astrology, so it's kind of cool. Thank you, SR. Hey, Rachel, it's nice to see you. Hey, Kelsey. All right, so let's go ahead, and now I will just asking final call. Is there anybody here from level 3? Otherwise, holy cow, we got a whole list of people. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 people in the queue. So it'll be Kelsey, Sang, Rachel, Kurt, and Miss Fogel in that order. Home with the kids, and you're my highlight. Oh, I'm sorry. It's okay, I'm home too. Super stoked to be able to talk to you guys about astrology. So let's go ahead and get into it. Once again, if any level 3s pop in, then we'll take care of them. And maybe you want to watch. A lot of people like to watch these lives because they learn. So it's a great way to learn. You kind of get the lingo. You get a feel for how I do readings. But if you pop in at any point, you want to get a reading, scan the QR code. Just give me a heads up. Let me know. What's up, D Cosmic? Nice to see you. We can definitely do that, Lynn. I'll send you an email. Right now, I think I'm 4 to 6 weeks wait time for a live reading. We're booking into March right now. Hey, Nancy. All right, so Nancy, did we already get you for the month already? Maybe you're level 2, you're level 3, but we might have gotten you already. Let me know, otherwise we'll get you in too. I'm gonna go ahead and pop on over, and I'm gonna get started here with Kelsey. My name is Kelsey. My birthday is 3/28/2000. So we're gonna pull her chart up. 3:37 p.m. And that was in Melrose Park, Illinois. So let's see here. My question is, I'm starting a new job soon. I'm hoping I can get promoted within the company and also think about going back to school in the fall. Also, my love life is a mess. Thank you so much. All right, so let's take a look here. So Miss Kelsey's got a Virgo rising, sun in Aries, and also she's got that moon in Capricorn. Love life's been a little tricky because of those retrogrades through your 5th house. So, hold on a second, we might have an issue with the chart. Let's see. Sorry guys, we're still in the Mercury shadow. Nope. It's okay. I'll just chat with you until we can get this sorted out. So we appreciate your guys' patience. We have a finicky iPad. I don't know if we're going to be able to pull the chart up, but that's okay. Hopefully we can figure it out. Otherwise, I'll just be able to talk to you about your chart. So let me see what we can do here. So let me just keep going with your chart. I apologize. Usually we have these up, but we're having some kind of technical glitches with the software. So for whatever reason, if you lose the stream, like if we're not here, we will come back. So don't worry. Sometimes we have to restart the software if it's acting weird. So hopefully we can keep going so we don't lose the stream. We'll see. But for Kelsey, so like I said, she's got Aries sun, Virgo rising, Cap moon. She mentioned having some challenges revolving around her love life. That's been the retrograde. That's going to settle out a little bit here soon. But really what she was asking about is hoping she can get promoted within her company so she can start thinking about going back to school. Now, in your horoscope, school is going to be much connected to the 9th house, higher education, completing programs, anything revolving around that. Now, we're seeing eclipses that are actually going to start happening in your 9th house here. You've already had one that took place in mid-November, but we've got another one that's actually going to be coming back April, May. And something else that I noticed, because your natal Saturn, which can be about commitment, we're going to see that there is going to be eclipses pretty close to your natal Saturn, and Uranus is coming into conjunction with your Saturn as well, which is making radical changes in your schedule, setting you up in a way that is going to allow you to make shifts either revolving around where or how you're going to school. So I think the challenge that I see in your horoscope actually more is from Saturn going through Aquarius in your 6th house. And as Saturn's going through Aquarius in your 6th house, it's actually creating squares, which are uncomfortable angles, to your natal 9th house of education. So it kind of tells me that there is a need to work on making changes either when you're working or how you're working. You know, Saturn's going to want that commitment, so it's going to want you to stick to your job. And Uranus wants to give you freedom. So I kind of get the impression that there's going to be this focus for you, at least for the better part of like the next 2 or 3 months, really looking at your daily schedule and your routine and asking yourself, is there a different way that I can be working? Can I be working a different schedule? Can I be working more in a digital sense? A lot of it depends on, you know, what kind of a job you have and what you're doing. Now, promotions, I think, are more actually going to possibly come about down the road. You can see some bonuses that can come in when Jupiter and like Venus go into your 8th house of Aries, and that's going to be closer to round about the end of April going into May. At that same time, we're going to see that there is a Mercury retrograde in your 10th house of career. So if you were to ask me, hey, you know, when is there possibly going to be a time where there's a breakthrough? Maybe I'm getting a bonus, maybe I'm getting a better paying position, maybe I can change my schedule. I would say look towards closer to mid to the end of May. That would be like a really great check-in point for the next 3 months to kind of assess, am I having growth in this particular position? Am I going to be able to make a change? If not, does it make sense for me to pivot and really focus on expanding my career, learning more? You know, that North Node is going to hang out in your 9th house really clear until about spring of 2023. That's a really great opportunity for you to go back and complete a diploma or finish school, or maybe even bring on training in a new way. Uranus is very unexpected and unconventional, and it oftentimes can also be something relating to like something digital. So I wonder, is it possible for you to consider doing school that may be, you know, remote? Is it possible to talk to your employer about the fact that you want to continue your growth in regards to your industry? Do they want to support you, whether that's working with you with your schedule or even possibly sponsoring you to go and get some kind of training or complete something so you can actually give more to the job that you're doing? I don't know if this like resonates, but seeing this a lot for Virgo risings. I have to tell you that what I'm really interested in is actually the Uranus trine to your moon. So notice your moon, if you've seen your chart, your moon is at 18 degrees in the 5th house. So it also tells me that really where you would be expanding is like learning about creative ways to bring new tools or learn something new to better kind of assist you with your professional goals. Now, on the flip side, Uranus trine your moon, which you're going to be experiencing really for the better part of like the next several months. That won't go exact until it hits 18, so that'll be brief in July. Perhaps maybe after a period of time until waiting to see how this plays out in May and June, and if you're feeling like something's just got to give and you can't continue your schedule along with the job that you've been doing, that can be that jump off point right around actually mid-July. when you have your Mars return, that you might take a leap of faith and kind of go, you know what, I got to go to school for this. I'm going to go back and I'm going to get my degree in this creative thing, or accounting. Taurus can be anything revolving around money, resources, finances. Marketing is something that you might actually have a really strong skill in, because you have all of those planets in Taurus in the 9th house. So you know what sells, you know what looks good, feels good, tastes good, but it's also about how you're marketing yourself. So I would advise you to give it until about mid-May, see if you're able to get that resolved in regards to getting more money, bringing more money in. It's a great time to be in Aries. You know, Jupiter is going to ingress into your sign, and you're going to see that you're going to be more optimistic, revolving around what options you have at hand. And you see lots of career advancement that happens whenever Jupiter makes aspects to your sun, because your goals get very big. I would just say that Jupiter in your 8th house is more, what are you willing to change? And I would also encourage you to be really open as to either what you could go to school for, because Jupiter, you know, kind of making aspects right now, sextiling Taurus, is like, what creative ventures can you do through education? And I would also say with Jupiter conjunct your sun, it's, you know, you may actually go to school further away. So you may contemplate like a work study program, or you may possibly consider also just going to school somewhere that might be an international program, or actually moving and relocating somewhere to go to school if it's a program that you really, really, really want to do. So I'm hoping that that makes sense. Like I said, give it till about mid-May, see how that pans out. If it doesn't, take a leap of faith, go to school for something you're really passionate about, even if it's further away or a little bit kind of outside of your comfort zone, closer to July going into August. It looks like it's going to be a little bit of a balancing act, though, until then for you. I'm not going to say challenging, but you know, all the planets in Aquarius are going to come to a square with the nodes. So we're going to see, you know, Mercury, Mars, Venus, Saturn all square the nodes. So wherever Aquarius is for anybody's chart this year, they really want to pay attention, because that's where we're having this new integration of something new building towards the future. That will be taking place in March and April. Okay, hopefully that's helpful. We're still trying to remedy the screen situation. So we may have to restart the app. Hopefully we can do that. So give me 1 second. Let's see if this makes a difference. Thank you guys for your patience. I appreciate it. There's been nothing but like weird stuff going on with this retrograde. I can't wait till the shadow is gone. Let's see. Let's see who we've got next on the list. This will be Sang. All right. Liverpool, Australia. Okay. August 20th, 1997. $3:54 p.m. You are so welcome. Circle back, let us know how it goes. So we've got here Sang. I saw in the memo, this is what it says. This is for SR, for your son, Brandon. We live in Australia, Leo sun, Pisces moon, Aquarius rising. Recently he has to come clean to me about his addictions. He's in some trouble. He's had problems with the police and the law before. We're worried about what he's doing and potentially all the 27 degrees in his 12th house. Can you check what will be his period astrologically if you see police in prison for him? Oh, we got the chart back. Praying. Okay, so SR, let me know if you're here. Hopefully you are. If you're not, you can come and watch the playback. So, all right, so this is an Aquarius rising chart, and Sun is in Leo in the 7th house, and Moon is in Pisces. Here's the deal. In this chart, yes, you do have Pluto coming into conjunction with Neptune. So the Venus and also the Mercury retrograde was about coming clean. Actually, Mercury going retrograde in Capricorn over his natal Neptune conjunct Pluto. Really, I feel like that's an opportunity for him to come clean so he can get assistance. It's not just about like not going to jail. It's more about dealing with his 8th house lord, which is about money owed, gambling debts, and also coming clean about anything relating to addiction. So it's really about security. 12th house is not just about jail. 12th house can be about rehab. It can be about things that are rattling us mentally or emotionally, anything like that. Okay? So he's born in 1997. So let me do some math here. When's his birthday? August. So he's in an annual perfection year 24. Now that is really going to highlight his 12th house and his 12th house lord big time. Well, actually I take that back. He's 24, so it's his 1st house. So you would have had bigger issues last year than this year now that he's in a 1st house year. However, Uranus, which rules his 1st house, is in his 12th. So you want to watch out more for when planets conjunct his natal Uranus. And I'm more concerned about Mercury first conjuncting Uranus and his mental state and how he's feeling mentally or emotionally, and if he's having issues from withdrawals or if he could benefit by possibly talking to somebody revolving around issues with his addiction and like those habits, because once again, this is about mental healing and clearing some of that out. This is also possibly some startling contact he might get. So he might get some like threatening emails or text messages or something of that nature right around February 19th, give or take. 2, you're going to see probably bigger issues when Mars has a conjunction to Uranus, or there are squares to transit Uranus. So you want to watch for when Mars comes into conjunction with Uranus. This is when people are actually coming being like, hi, we want our money, and wanting to be paid back. This is going to be from March 11th until it finishes the square with transit Uranus closer to about March 23rd. So the 11th through the 23rd. Mars and Venus, Mars deals with his 10th house, so it's about his responsibility, his obligation to paying people back. Venus represents family, and I think with Mars and Venus coming to the ascendant, it's essentially saying that his family standing up for him, protecting him, being like, how can we help you? You know, are there ways that we can help deal with these people? Things like that. I would advise you to not be handling these disputes at the home though. And if you do feel like you got any threatening emails, text messages, or anything like that, and people are coming to the house, then you need to contact the authorities, okay? Because Pluto, even though it's passing Neptune, it's still very close. All right, so besides that, obviously it's going to be a very active time with planets in his 1st house because he's in a 1st house annual perfection year. So Mars and Venus on his ascendant conjunct Jupiter essentially says that this is also about the people who he's friends with and the people who he keeps company with. And you don't want any of his friends potentially getting involved in a situation where they are getting involved, you know, defending him or anything like that as well, especially physically altercations. That's something you really want to watch for. Now, once these squares are over, in theory, it should get a little bit easier. Mars coming into conjunction with Jupiter, I feel like is about him possibly seeking the assistance of an attorney or talking to an attorney if need be, or getting some really good advice from a friend. That's around the end of March. And then you also want to watch for when Saturn and Mars are conjunct, because that's likely more to lead towards issues pertaining to jail, because Saturn is the ruler of his 12th house. So you're looking at anything from April 1st through April 4th, when Saturn and Mars come together at a 22, which is a degree that deals very specifically with the law, judges, police officers, anything like that. So once again, it's going to be much closer to about April 4th, give or take a couple of days. The problem with this is that not only are these two going to conjunct in his first house, which can really relate to like there being a warrant out for his arrest and him having to either turn himself in or somebody coming and actually arresting him. You want to be careful because it could be at his place of work or it could be at home. It's also possible that they could come looking for one of his parents, and they could talk to one of his parents and be like, where is he? We want to know where he is. But these 22s are really difficult to deal with when they relate very specifically to fixed signs, because it's almost like there's a real adamant sense of having to show up and deal with the karma, and it's going to square the nodes. So knowing that there's a likelihood of this stuff coming, I would say it's more possibly about talking to him, number one, about getting support with his addictions, and also figuring out how much money does he owe. You know, do you really want to deal with these people who are going to continue to keep giving you and him problems? Does it make sense possibly to get ahead of the situation and either go and talk to authorities or talk to an attorney before you get to the early April date? That's what I would say. Now, once you get out of this first house period and you're kind of clear, I'm not going to say things are over, but things do in theory get a little bit easier. Saturn is the traditional ruler of Aquarius, so I would say also with Saturn coming into an opposition with his sun, makes me wonder if other people are potentially going to turn him in. Thankfully, Saturn stops short of his sun, but still, especially like friends or romantic partners or other people who he's affiliated with who might turn him in to either the authorities or people who know who he owes money. You also want to watch when there are aspects to Uranus in his 4th house. So let's go back in time a little bit. I wonder what's going to happen when Mercury comes into a conjunction with Uranus. I feel like the stress, and if he's still hiding a drug addiction or a gambling habit or anything like that, it can come up a lot in mid-April. In fact, it can be very surprising if he has to explain this to another parent or another family member. And then that's really strong around mid-April. When the sun conjuncts Uranus, I feel like this is going to be on the eclipse point right around April 30th. This can also be about him dealing with a judge. Because the 7th house can be about dealing with a judge, or there being like a verdict or a hearing or a determination. Then when Venus follows up and conjuncts Uranus, I feel like that's some kind of like healing. Possibly there could be an opportunity for, you know, him to be like, look, you know, I'm going to some kind of rehabilitation program. I'm going to AA. I'm seeing a therapist. I know that I've made mistakes, but I'm on the mend. There is a possibility with some of these squares that make me feel like he may get off and be able to go under house arrest, because you're actually going to start seeing trines to Neptune, and you're going to start seeing sextiles actually between Saturn and his natal Saturn. So if he's willing to do that, if that's something that's offered to him, like a outpatient rehab program, maybe he does community service, he pays a fine, and then he's basically told like, okay, you have to be on house arrest, you have to check in with somebody. That can be something that actually can be a way out, right? But long-term wise, Pluto's going to hang around his Neptune for a little while. So outside of like the annual perfection transits, Pluto will retrograde back, and it's going to conjunct Neptune again in the end of June of 2022. and it'll conjunct it one more time with a retrograde at the end of December. So really this tells me that he's in the state of really needing support clear until the beginning of next year, with battling addictions, with handling his stress and stuff that's going on mentally and emotionally. This is something that you really want to keep an eye on. The Saturn-Uranus squares are going to return October, November, December 2022. So you're going to see that friction between his behavior, his actions, and his family, which in theory, according to this chart, seems to suggest that there may be some ultimatums where it's like, look, if you can't clean your act up, you can't live here anymore. We can't keep covering for you. We can't keep fronting you for money that you owe. You can't keep putting us in jeopardy. You know, something like that revolving around not being able to stay with the family. So if this is stuff that's been coming up in this retrograde the last month or two, realize that the beginning of 2023 is also going to start with a Mercury retrograde conjunct Pluto. So his actions can catch up with him, and I would say don't push your luck, especially next year going into a Neptune year, that with Neptune on your moon and also having Saturn going into Pisces, then you are looking at possibly jail time next year. Then you are looking at bigger fines. Then you are looking at more serious rehabilitation situations. This retrograde that we just finished up, Venus and Mercury, the retrograde's been happening to give us a heads up about what we need to clear out so we're not in the same situation 1 year from now. Also at that time, notice the nodes are going to be squaring in on Pluto. And I got to tell you guys something. Having Pluto square the nodes is not fun. It's a forced change. So at that point, Pluto is crossing into Aqua, and it's going to be squaring the nodes, forcing him to evolve and change. Pluto whole sign would be on his ascendant. And then down the road still, he's going to have Pluto that's going to cross his natal Uranus and also his ascendant. This will be years of Pluto transits. So huge, profound psychological shifts and change. I have found that 8 degrees of Aquarius does deal with like taking things, owing things, drugs. It's like a Scorpio energy, so it can deal with toxins. So this is like somebody who long-term who really would benefit from being in a rehabilitation program, staying sober, going to meetings, having a therapist, clear really all the way until 2030. So you may want to look into Pluto transit his Neptune in the 12th, Pluto transit his Uranus, Pluto transit his ascendant. This is some stuff that you're going to be really seeing for the better part of the next 7 or 8 years, you know? And he was born with Saturn square Neptune. So there's some issues here with money, because Neptune rules his 2nd house, and being honest about transactions and what he owes versus what he's given people or what he's taken, things like that. Just learning to communicate better and being more transparent, if that makes sense. I'm noticing that some of you guys are making purchases. Awesome. Thank you for your donations. Please, because I have to go in through the chat and make everybody wait. When you make a purchase in the memo, put your birthday, your time, your year, your city. It all needs to go in the memo. Otherwise, the whole process is going to be a lot slower for you guys, so I apologize. Those of you guys who are just tuning in, welcome. We're doing live readings. Check out the QR code if you want to make a donation. You can scan, or you can also check the link that's pinned at the top of the box. It's also right below here. $40 donation for any question in regards to astrology, $65 for Synastry. We're answering questions in the order that they receive. So we've got about 5 people right now. Okay, hi Sass, nice to see you. What are your thoughts on Pluto squared Saturn and Jupiter squared with natal Jupiter? A lot of it depends on the chart itself, and I need to know the chart ruler, so I'd have to look at it because I'm really visual. But whenever you're dealing with a square of any kind, it's Mars energy. So Pluto square Saturn is going to be kind of tempered with some aggression, maybe some conflict, and then Jupiter square Jupiter is good expansions, you know? Thanks, Sass. Appreciate it. We'll be with you shortly. Let me update this list. Hopefully that was helpful for you. I'm sorry to hear you're going through it with your kiddo. Hopefully this is helpful in giving him some insight that's like, listen, dude, you can really save yourself a whole lot of trouble right now by focusing on getting on the right path. And that's not me, you know, preaching to you. It's me being like, you got another 7 or 8 years of life coming, and you can do this the easy way or the hard way. If you do it the easy way and you're willing to start focusing on getting to the heart of the matter now, it's going to save you a lot of grief next year and the possibility of having to pay some fines, you know? Okay. Thank you very much. So let's go ahead and see what else I got here. So we got Chelsea, we got Sang. Hopefully that was helpful. If you're still watching, let me know, SR. Rachel's back. Hi, I don't know what to ask, but I'm having a hard time moving past the sadness. Any insights for my chart or advice? Feeling lonely and frustrated about being lonely. So let's see what's going on with Rachel. 5484. Rachel, I'm sorry, you're blue. 2:30 p.m. in Eureka. Those of you guys who stayed with us through the malfunctions and the glitches, I appreciate it. Thank you for being patient. Usually we're pretty good, but you know, we're just victim to the retrograde. You're very welcome. Circle back, let us know how it goes. Here we go, Rachel. May 4th, 1984, 2:30 p.m. gives you Virgo rising. Look at that stellium of planets right now in your 5th house. 5th house is a Leo energy. It's joy, it's sunshine, it's dating, it's romance, it's falling in love, it's sex, it's all that stuff. And I got to tell you, for everybody else who's Virgo rising, especially I would say if, well, whole house, it's all Virgo risings, but especially people who I think are going to have any personal planets right around like 22 to 29 degrees, or just that chunk. I mean, notice Rachel doesn't even have any planets within those degrees, and she's really feeling the kind of the downness, right? So 5th house Pluto transits is definitely peppered with some broken hearts, some breakdowns before some breakthroughs. There can be some mourning, especially in Capricorn, grief, loss over time, guilt about how much time you've spent with somebody, on somebody, thinking about something, time lost, things like that, right? And, you know, people are really in their feelings with the transits right now. A lot of it is because Mercury has been stationing, it's been conjunct Pluto. We can have all of these obsessive thoughts about where we've given our power away. So I notice your chart ruler, Mercury, the messenger, how you communicate and express yourself has been conjunct Pluto. So it's been this whole like, oh, I can't stop thinking about it. Oh, my heart's broken, you know, anything like that, revolving around not being able to let it go. I had a friend of mine today, actually, who was messaging me. It's so funny because he knows nothing about astrology, and he's like, what is going on right now? And he's got planets in the late degrees of Capricorn, and he's like, I'm just really going through it. It's like, I just can't move through this. Remember that in earth signs, things get stuck, or it's hard to be able to physically move grief around in the body or physically let go, right? And we don't want to let go. But Mercury conjunct Pluto is giving you the opportunity, if you were to just let go, to let go of the thoughts, let go of the pain, and release it. And it's kind of what I said to him. The beauty of Pluto is like, hey, you can let this die now. There's usually a lot of grief associated with, you know, these kinds of transits, especially if Mercury is your chart ruler. I would really advise you, I don't know if you are doing this, but Pluto does rule your 3rd. You want to pay attention to how much time you're giving to these thoughts. And just for the sake of an experiment, maybe tomorrow, the next couple days, just while we're in this conjunction, because Mercury is going to be conjunct Pluto only for a couple more days, I would advise you to keep a serious list of either how much time, which I know is hard to do, or how many times you find yourself regressing back to these thoughts. So if it's in regards to a breakup, if it's in regards to a specific person, if it's in regards to situations that didn't work out, for the sake of visually, I want you to keep track. Keep a notepad with you maybe the next day or two, and be honest, don't bullshit, be honest, and I want you to keep tally how many times you catch your mind going back to that. Because I think you need to see it, it's physical. Also, these sextiles are beginning to build into trines with your natal, squares with your natal Pluto and Scorpio in the 3rd. So it's not just about not being able to get over some kind of blues or heartbreak or something that didn't work out, but It's also about how that's becoming a really negative pattern that is affecting how you think. Remember, where intention goes, energy flows. And this is a big thing right now if you've got, you know, sextiles happening between Capricorn and also Pisces. So there's something that's going through here that makes me kind of feel like if you let it go, if you release it, and sometimes that's experiencing the grief, you know, anybody who's got planets in Scorpio, they get a bad rap for being really extreme or really possessive or like really dramatic or really dark. But like Pluto themes are usually kind of laced with like, if you have to have your night, cry it out, go through all the old photos, all the old shit, whatever you got to do to get it out of your system. Then I want you to take it, put it in a box and bury it. Like you need to like actually ritualize releasing and letting something go. This is an important lesson for you right now, Rachel. The reason being is you've also got transit Uranus coming into an opposition with Saturn, saying that if you really want to go into the future and if you actually want to feel like you're a part of the collective and not feel like you're alone, or if you want to feel like you can let new love in, or if you want to feel like you can change the story or the kind of the tone for how your love life has gone, and you want to break out of the matrix, then now's the time to do it. No better time than when Uranus is in an opposition to Saturn, boo-boo. That's also going to be peppered with some transits from Mars and Venus and all these other things that are going to come into a square. So when planets go into your 6th house of Aquarius and they square your natal Saturn and they square transit Uranus, it's also like such an important time to look at how much time are you giving away, right? And this is not just on thinking about breakups. It's how much time are you sitting on Instagram? How much time are you on Facebook? How much time are you sitting in traffic? How much time are you at a job that you hate? How much time are you focusing on things that aren't actually productive? For some of my Virgo risings, I've said it's really important to take a look at that scary little app on your iPhone or on your iPad and actually see how much time you're spending on some of your social media. If you're socially lurking or reflecting on the past, old text messages, videos, looking at their stuff, I would say it's going to become increasingly clear in the next weeks ahead of just how much time you're spending doing that and how much time that actually could be put into healthier, better things. All those trines in Aquarius are going to be going to your North Node and to your moon. So it's about building healthier boundaries, goals, stuff pertaining to being more efficient, being able to help other people, having healthier habits, and also being able to feel like you're more productive in your day-to-day or in your career. So, you know, I don't know what's going on in your life right now. I will tell you that right on the other side of these transits, you are going to have like Venus and Jupiter and all these planets go into your 7th house. And I'm like, let it go. Let it die. Really let it die, because what's coming for you April, May, June is going to be so much better, but you don't get to receive that until you've actually made space for it, you know? But yeah, Pluto in the 5th house is definitely kind of, like I said, peppered with some heartbreak to an extent. So that definitely makes sense. I guess the one thing that you got going for you though is that you do have Pluto sextile your natal Mars. So at least you can talk about it. At least moving forward in relationships, you can be a little bit more vulnerable and like, hey, you know, I've gotten my heart broken. I'm not looking to do that again. I'm looking for the real deal, or anything revolving around some of the disappointment that you may be experiencing right now. So on to better things, girl, because between these transits you have in your 7th house, which is kind of suggesting that there's like a real like storybook romance that's going to start, and Uranus on your sun, it's not about whether or not things are actually going to, you know, come up for you that's going to help you change. It's like how you can look at some of those situations and go, obviously that ended because I needed to learn more about myself and that was not healthy for me, you know? And in March, I'm going on a 4-day fast in the desert. Maybe that will help. Yeah, that'll help. Traveling, being in nature, all of that stuff. Because you're also going to have Uranus trine your Jupiter. That's the traditional ruler of your 7th house. And I would say you can't play the comparison game. You can't compare yourself where you are versus other people, or where other people are versus you. It's like you can't get yourself in this whole like, oh, well, they've moved on before I did. Like, that doesn't matter. right now Jupiter is in a sextile to Uranus, which means there can be profound opportunities for new love and romance in your chart if you believe, ninth house, and if you're traveling, right? Hopefully that's helpful. Thanks, Cosmic. I got you on that. Don't worry. All right. Okay, so now we've got Kurt. So let me plug Kurt in. I saw him up here somewhere. Oh, there we go. Okay, so let's get your information. 123.95. And that was at 10:30 a.m. Murfreesboro. All right, so let's take a look and see what's going on for you. It's okay, Sass. I'll call your name, and when I do, you're a couple people away. So 1, 2, 3. So right when I'm about done with Brandon, just send that to me. All right, Kurt, here we go. Asking tonight about the master course that I'm in for education. I had an open book quiz the other day and didn't do as well as I had hoped. Open book quizzes really should be hundreds of questions. They were sort of poorly worded, and I had some typos and incorrect information in the questions. I'm kind of confused me and created some issues. But I read the chapter in the days prior, sort of shocked and missing questions. Anyway, my question is, will I be successful in this course that runs until about May? I need to keep a 3.0 in order to stay in the program and keep my job. Otherwise, I go from being a teacher's assistant and extend how long to get certified. Wondering if I'll be successful in this course while studying for my teacher certification and doing my job this semester. Okay. So, I think a lot of this is just really connected to the Mercury-Pluto, you know? I mean, looking at, I could see like Mercury-Pluto, you want to be careful with becoming obsessive about what you missed. I would say you can't beat yourself up over what happened. Just let it be. Studying is definitely going to deal with Mercury though, especially because that's your third house ruler, and aspects maybe between Mercury and Jupiter. So here's the nice news, is that Mercury is getting ready to move out of Capricorn, and it's going to start sextiling your natal Jupiter. So that makes me feel like increased ability for you to retain information, study, feeling more confident. I would encourage you to study with other people or other people who are also going to be taking this test, because it's going into your 11th house. This can also be online quizzes, practice quizzes, anything like that that's going to be on an online kind of forum or just with other people. But Mercury coming into a sextile with Jupiter, especially like the 20th through, I would say, maybe even about March 1st. That's a great time to just really focus on studying and doing it regularly and routinely. The other thing is, just looking at this, I'm trying to remember when you said that you're going to be taking it. I think you said in May. Correct me if I'm wrong. I could have sworn that this said May. Or maybe it doesn't even say it all. Remind me, when are you supposed to be taking this? But I'm looking at transits overall to your natal Mercury, and this is Saturn coming into conjunction. Saturn is time, Saturn is commitment. Saturn is also buckling down, and you've got Saturn that's going to be on your Mercury, that's about studying and capturing all the details. And it's also going to be making a square to the nodes. So here's what I would say. You want to use the optimism and the focus about really getting committed and buckling down at the end of February. So that way when Mars and Venus sit conjunct your Mercury, your Mars, somebody else's Venus, I have a feeling like you might meet a woman who you're possibly studying with, or it's a female friend maybe, or maybe somebody who you're working with, or just somebody who you meet that you can do this alongside, because Mars and Venus want to work together. And I'm looking at Mars and Venus conjuncting your Mercury clear from the end of March till the beginning of April, and it's squaring the nodes. Now, Venus doesn't always have to be a woman. Venus can be a creative way that you go about studying. It can be that maybe you're studying while listening to classical music. Maybe you're studying and you create very colorful visual flashcards. Maybe you're studying in a way that just feels more comfortable, like you're adding a little bit of flair. It's not just like sitting here and like looking through a book studying. It's like maybe you go and you create a bunch of digital flashcards, and they're loud and they're bright and they capture your attention, and then you're going through them on your phone digitally, like Venus and Aquarius, doing it regularly. Or maybe you work with another person and you and that person both create some kind of like study guide together, because Venus can be the harmony of doing that. Whenever planets conjunct Saturn, it's not fun. It's like kind of serious business, tough love. But I think that it's going to trine your moon, which means you're going to feel more emotionally kind of supported doing this with another person. So I would really encourage you doing that. Now, this is leading up through April, by the way. So it's not just you're crunching March going into April because you're going to study soon. It's like, no, you've got somebody else who's like, I got to take this test too. Even if you don't see them in person, you could do it at a distance, or you could do this digitally, or maybe you find like an online forum or something where you could do this with another person. This is for all Aries risings, by the way. Anybody who's trying to kind of focus on like learning more, doing something more, communicating more, you can do that digitally or with a group. When the time comes to take exams, well, it's interesting depending on when you're doing this in May, because at the end of April, there is going to be an eclipse, and this will be when Mercury is coming into a trine with your natal Mercury. Yay! So actually early May looks kind of good, especially right before Mercury turns retrograde. So Mercury is going to turn retrograde right around May 9th. Now this is me this is not me saying don't do it because it's a Mercury retrograde. I know that life happens. Sometimes we don't have control over when we have to take quizzes and tests and things, but when it is retrograde, the interesting thing is it's going to retrograde and it's going to trine your natal Mercury from about May 15th until its conjunction with the Sun on May 21st. Now, it makes me feel like what a great time for you to be taking it. The Sun conjuncts your Mercury, and there's a Cazimi, and you feel more confident. I think you're going to feel even more confident the second half of May. Don't worry about it being a retrograde. Just make sure that you read everything, slow down, take your time, you don't rush, and I think you should be fine. Both because it's going to trine your natal Sun, which is going to make you feeling real optimistic, but also because it's an out of sign trine. But Mercury and the Sun at 0 and 1 degrees of Gemini are trining Pluto, which is being really passionate about being like, I gotta pass this, I'm gonna get this job. So use the optimism at the end of February, really commit in March and April, and find a way to make it creative. If you can't do it with another person, I want you to make some flashy flashcards. I'd also really like you to listen to music or something that's calming and add more Venusian aspects to the process of you actually studying. And to me, it actually looks really positive. It's a great time for you to be taking this test. So good luck. You might want to pray to Hermes. Give an offering to Mercury, maybe. That's something that I definitely used to do when I was in medical school on a regular basis, because definitely a lot of cramming, you know? You can do that on a Wednesday. Orange candles are good. Mercury likes pennies, and he likes whiskey and chocolate, and he likes keys. So you can give him any of those things to kind of help you with receiving the messages and remembering. Hopefully that's helpful. Miss Fogel, let's see what's going on with you. Then we've got Nancy, Malaya, Brandon, Sherry, and then we are going to have D Cosmic in that order. Thanks for your patience, guys. All right, so let's see what's up with Miss Fogel. Sounds good. I will get you next on the list, Miko. I'm heading to Detroit for my grandmother's funeral. Sorry to hear that. An ex-boyfriend there wants us to rekindle. Very Venus-Pluto. Okay, I don't have a birth time. So 9/11/74. And that was at 9:13 a.m. in Detroit. All right, so Venus retrograde, I mean, this couldn't be any more textbook. Your chart ruler, Venus, goes retrograde in the 4th house, which is about going home and dealing with burying family, and it is conjunct Pluto. Just weird. Is this the guy I've been predicting? Well, here's my 2 cents, all right? Just food for thought. Yes, this brings somebody back, but if you look at the bottom part of the chart where Mercury and Pluto are, it's been in a square to your natal Uranus, which means like going back home, dealing with the past in some way is bringing up this very sudden and unexpected change and shift in regards to relationships, but it's not just other people, it's relationships with yourself. So it's also the Venus retrograde saying, is there something there? Venus retrogrades can bring in soulmates, okay? Like, it's true, that's possible, but not all of those motherfuckers are supposed to stay. My concern is that Venus is going to move up into conjunction with Pluto, and it's going to square your natal Uranus, and it's going to square Chiron. That is something to watch for. So right around February 26th, when the moon enters Capricorn, through the square around March 5th, we'll see if he's still hanging around. Just food for thought. Be careful giving up the cookie, okay? So like going back and seeing him, Pluto was definitely about sex. It can be about hooking up. It can be about kind of dancing with the past and seeing if there's still something there. So somebody's coming back is kind of a given with these transits, but actually having sex with somebody, because Venus rules your 8th house, and then Venus will shortly thereafter with Mars, your Venus, other people are Mars, are going to come into a square with Uranus, and you want to watch out for situations in mid-March, about the 17th of March through, let's say, the beginning of April. So that 2-week period, you know, mid-March through April, where somebody goes, oh no, we're cool, we're just friends, you know, we're tight, I'll add you on Facebook, I'll follow you on Instagram, I hope you're good, see you later. The temptation here with physically allowing a guy into your home, physically going into another guy's house, having sex with somebody is the one thing that you really want to refrain from, unfortunately. And I only say this because it's all having conversations with Uranus, which is a different way that you're handling relationships, you're protecting yourself. The fact that Pluto is in the mix, which is going to be intoxicating and something that can be very sexual, but doesn't necessarily mean that it's a good fit. And I'm also looking out for you because it's also all going to square your Chiron in your 7th house, which means it can bring up some kind of wounding that's like, dude, that guy did that to me in the past. Is he going to do it again? You want to see him? You want to hang out with him? Great. Don't sleep with him. Get your ass on the plane and go home. Watch what happens. When you do this, likely what's going to happen is you're going to see a situation where he's going to come back even harder when Mars is in a conjunction to your Jupiter, which will be in early May. And then you want to see if this is going to materialize as him being like, I'll come to you. You know, Mars, Jupiter is travel. So it's, I'll come to you. I'm calling you. I'm trying. Let's keep up. I want to see if we can make this happen. And then also we're going to see Venus and Jupiter go into Aries. Your love life is supposed to be like popping end of May through June. So if you follow that timeline, it's more like go back and forth, see how it goes. I wouldn't recommend sleeping with him. I haven't even looked at his birthday yet. And I would really try to draw that out until about May. See if you guys keep talking and see if he's like legit with what he's saying to you. I would always be a little suspicious of Venus retrograde in my 4th. Going back home, there's a funeral, guy shows up. I mean, not to be like shitty, but like everybody wants to have sex after a funeral, so you can't. People are grieving. They're kind of in their feelings. So his birthday is 10/16/74. (10/16/74). That's exactly what I said to my bestie. So here's him, and he's one indecisive little dude, because if you look at the outer wheel, this is him. Venus, Mars, the Sun, Uranus. He's a little player, you know? He's not somebody who settles very easily, and the last couple of years have not been kind to him because he's gotten his ass kicked all over the place with Saturn in a square to all of his planets. Now, in Libra's defense, I will say that Libras are looking for, you know, commitment. They're looking for relationships, but you want to make sure that you're looking for a Libra that's not looking for a couch to sleep on. Like, make sure he's got a job, make sure he's got his shit together, make sure he's not living with his mama, none of that stuff. Make sure he's got a life and he's stable. Otherwise, this could be a person who's coming in who got kicked out of a relationship, doesn't have anywhere to live, he's on tough times, and he's just looking for somebody who's going to help him come up, you know? And I say that also because he's a Libra with a lot of Scorpio in his chart. That Moon, Uranus, and Scorpio. So we don't know exactly, Moon, Mercury, and Scorpio. We don't exactly know where his moon is because we don't have the time. But it's safe to say that Uranus is opposing his moon and Saturn is squaring it. So for a Libra rising, that's a lot of like money, finances, where is he living, things like that. So you want to see if he can kind of keep up, right? And if he's got his own life outside of a life with you. Okay, good. Yeah, he's stable. Okay, good. The other thing I would say is for the late degree Libras, a theme that I have seen over this last year, and mid-degree, but more so late degree, and you as well, is a lot of reconnecting to the past, right? Part of this is because Pluto's been kicking up a bunch of stuff in the 4th house. Who knows, maybe a death did need to bring you home so you can reconsider. One of two things are gonna happen. Either you need to clear karma there because it actually needs to be wrapped up and kind of sent on its merry way, so that way you actually are like, yes, okay, you know, that's in the past, I'm not the same person anymore, moving on, somebody else comes in, or you guys have something to do with each other. Now, obviously, you were born relatively close in age and time. So both in 74. You're a couple months apart. So you've got Juno to Juno, Juno to Jupiter. You guys both have a lot of Libra in your chart. You know, if you got a Libra like this with Venus and Mars and the Sun on your ascendant, he's going to be on you like white on rice, you know? And he's not going to leave you alone. They're like a lapdog. So when they're all about it, they won't leave. One of my mentors always said to me, one of the smartest things you could do is marry somebody who has their Sun on your ascendant, because it's going to be somebody who's always just going to be super committed to you, right? They're always going to be there when they're going through life changes. If you listen to their horoscope, you're going through life changes as well. So, you know, just food for thought that is something that, you know, you're always going to have him around you. You got to watch out for those Scorpio moons though. And one other thing is Venus and Mars are in opposition to his Saturn right now in Cancer. So it's a lot of like, oh, I'm after this girl, but she lives somewhere else. Okay, great. This is not a thing. You guys can go back and forth clear into the spring and then start having conversations once you get to about March through June about whether or not that can be something. I'm just always a little hesitant about a male Libra who's got Mars, Venus, conjunct the Sun, because these guys are low players, they have options, it's hard for them to settle, it's very Venusian, and I would want to make sure that he's going to actually stick it out. Now next year, when Jupiter fully goes into Aries, it's going to be in opposition to all of his planets, which means he's most likely going to have to be in a situation where either he's supporting a woman coming and visiting him or staying with him, or he's willing to pick up and move. So I wouldn't even have those conversations yet. I would hold off and have that closer to May, June. So you see if you can go back and forth a little bit first before you make that call. One thing I will tell you is that Pluto is in a square to his natal Uranus. It's in a square to your Uranus too, which means Both of you guys can't be fickle anymore. Both of you guys can't be in a situation where you're like, I can have this and I can have that and I can have this. Pluto is basically saying to you, wouldn't it be nice to have a home? Wouldn't it be nice to actually cut the old emotional patterns? Wouldn't it be nice to not have power struggles or feel too committed to wanting to live in your own space? It's wanting to break that down for a lot of Libra placements, Libra risings as well, kind of teaching them that they can't have that really strict kind of home base. People don't realize that about Libra risings, that Capricorn rules the 4th house. So they have this persona out in the public that's like nice and sweet and loving and they're really fair and whatever. But if you live with a Libra rising, you can actually tell that they're actually kind of like dominant and they're kind of cold and detached and they run a tight ship. So Pluto's trying to break all that down, being like, it doesn't have to be that way. You can change that. You can change where you live. You can change and kind of look at relationships differently than how they've been in the past or how you were raised. So there's a little bit of back and forth that you guys are going to do with each other. I would wait till about May, June, see what he's saying, see if he's going to come see you. I would make him come and see you. You can visit him and y'all can have a conversation closer to what's going to be June, July, when there's Mars retrogrades that are getting ready to heat up in the fall, as to who's going to move. So you going to move to me? Am I going to move to you? Oh, you don't want to move. You're going to pay for my plane tickets? Sorry, but you know, he's got planets in your 2nd house. He can pay for it. And when Mars goes retrograde in the fall this year in your 9th house, because it's the ruler of your 7th house, it's going to be about you going back and forth about a faraway move. Libra risings are all going to have this. So you can find that it can be an easier time to talk to your partner about being like, hey, can we move somewhere? And getting on the same page about choosing from 2 cities. So that's going to be nice because it's going to trine your ascendant, you know? Just food for thought. If he's still hanging around June, call me. We'll take a look at it. Hopefully that's helpful. Don't give up the cookie. Don't do it. Not during a Venus retrograde. Oh, okay. Let's see who else we got here. We got Nancy. Hey, Nancy. Hey, Jillian. Nice to see you. Sorry, guys, you're going to hear my bulldog snoring in the background. It's just the way that it is. So. I promise you, there is not somebody sleeping in this room. Love you too, girl. We'll chat soon. All right, let's see what's going on with Miss Nancy. 9583. So many Virgos, huh? You guys are all bugging out with the Mercury-Pluto conjunction or what? Nancy, are you still there? Can I get your time? I forget when it is. Houston, Texas. (7:45 p.m.) Thank you. All right, so Nancy, 9583, 7:45. So here's what she says. My school lost $6,000 of the Pell Grant from my account. Who will pay for their administration mistake? Got withdrawn from school. Non-payment. Holy shit, that's very Venus retrograde. So money owed is going to be Venus, which, well, actually your money is Mars. So actually, you know, Nancy, I would say to you, this is not, I mean, obviously it sucks, right? But I think it might get remedied because Mars rules your money and Venus is other people, and they are linking up and they are going to come into a conjunction with Pluto, which may materialize as you being like, look, here's the deal. Whatever's gone on here, that was a lot of money, and I don't want to have to either file something, or I don't want to have to file something with like a legal person, or I don't want to have to follow up with something that might be like an organization associated with education. I know I'm kind of grasping at straws here, but this is something I don't know anything about. I just think the 9th house could either be legal, or it can be you actually having conversations either with a school board or having conversations with somebody who oversees educational centers and like filing a complaint. This really heats up for you around February 26th, when the moon comes into conjunction with Mars, Venus, and Pluto, and it's making trines to the North Node, I would say if you don't have anything shift by about February 26th, file the complaint and file something that is not necessarily going to be legal, but it might be with like an educational organization that's like they fucked up, right? There was an error. I asked for, oh, okay, cool. Yeah, I mean, I'll tell you something though. You taking action while you have trines to the North Node, which deals with money and education, makes me feel like it could be remedied. And I know that your particular courses, they start at certain times, but it may be enough for you to be like, even if I get that money back, I don't know if I want to go there. Because I'm looking at all the squares that are going to start happening in your 12th house, and it's not meant to get you discouraged from completing your program, but possibly looking at going somewhere else completely different. You may feel that way in April. What's interesting is the Mercury retrograde that's going to come up for you in the 3rd does make me feel like you've got your money, you're good, you're going back to school. So I do see you getting it back. I don't think this is going to be a loss, right? I really don't think that. I could see that it could take some time, and you may get something definitely coming back to you. I think when Mars and Venus are trining your Pluto and somebody's like, oh yeah, we did screw up, you know, here you go. Yeah, I mean, and if you were slandered, if there's anything else going on, not a time to screw with you with all these planets going into your 12th house, squaring the 9th house Lord, excuse me, the 9th house South Node. I almost wonder if there's, you know, if you don't make any headway in the next month or so talking to them and basically trying to get the money back and having them rectify the situation, then do you go to, you know, centers or some kind of oversight committee or some kind of board or something to be able to talk to them about that, and then decide that you're going to take the path of possibly causing a ruckus. With Mars and Venus making a trine to your Pluto, I do feel like you're going to have the money back though. To me, that seems like that's probably something coming in right around the beginning of April. But I think that if they refund it and they're not willing to get you back in the program, or you can't start until a later date, you might actually decide to go somewhere else altogether, you know? Unfortunately, this is also Pluto square Pluto. And in your chart, Pluto rules the 9th house of education, and you've got Pluto in the 8th house natally, so it's about somebody withholding that, not necessarily giving it to you. You want to look for trines as the release point. And if this does end up being a legal situation, if, I'm not saying it will, then Venus conjunct Jupiter may give it back to you in May, or Venus conjunct Uranus can have it awarded to you in June. You know, summary judgment might be the thing to do, because judgment is going to be more Mercury. And when Mercury goes into your 12th house, you may be able to do that and have a conversation. And that would be in early March. I would actually try to do that. Getting a summary judgment with the judge. Mercury, Saturn in your 12th house, speaking to them and trying to get them to make a decision. Well, the other thing is that may manifest with that square to the nodes is like enough people complaining that they file complaints actually with an education board, which can really get them in some hot water and possibly even a class action lawsuit. I do see you getting your money back though, boo, especially when Mars and Venus come into a trine with your Pluto. It's going to be released. You're going to get it. But possibly you were being saved from going to a school that was going to screw you over, or probably not even be worth the investment. So hopefully that's helpful, but at least give it till then. Try to get the summary judgment and do this behind closed doors when Mercury is conjunct Saturn. And maybe even try to get statements, actually, something else I would say, from other students. Or something where they're giving a statement, so you can kind of bring that, or maybe even bring them to some extent. That's also going to aid. We want to think groups, right? Aquarius. So bringing other people, getting other people involved. Will they get their doors closed? A lot of that depends on the inception date of the school. So that's definitely something we could look at. Like if you had the inception date of when the school was open, we could look at the chart for that. I'd have to do like a sun on the ascendant, but we could look at that in terms of the sun ascendant chart with what's happening to the school. That's going to be dependent on their astrology. We're going to call last call, guys. Anybody who's already paid, we'll get you in. Don't worry. So we've got Malaya, and who else do we have here? Let me refresh this, because I know we got a couple other people. Okay. We have a lot of people actually, so we're definitely last call. So yeah, guys, we're gonna cut this now. So anybody else who wants to send a donation, just letting you know, we're gonna call it a night, because I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 people. So probably get you next week. It'll be tarot though, so 2 weeks will be astrology. All right, so let's go ahead and take a look at Malaya. I saw you sent this energy or this message somewhere earlier. Where is it? Here we go. 5/2/2001. And this is at 6:56 p.m. And that was at Pontiac, Michigan. Okay, general reading about career, education, relationship, self. I've also been feeling a little clairvoyant lately, but I don't know if that's a thing or not. So what do you want me to focus on? That's a lot of different stuff. Career, education, relationship, self. Let's talk about the big transits that you got going on in your chart. Another Libra rising. It's interesting that you're talking about being clairvoyant. The sun's conjunct Uranus today, so interesting day for just being aware of your goals, but also the fact that Saturn is getting ready to conjunct your natal Uranus, which is your traditional ruler of the 5th house, which is about feeling inspired. Uranus can be about your future perspective. And you really want to watch for that, because your natal Uranus is at a 24. So it's about your intuition in regards to how you're feeling in your home, dreams that you're having, kind of reflecting on the past, messages that may come from family members, things like that. Uranus in the 4th is very intuitive, especially because you have Uranus trine your ascendant. So there's something going on there revolving around working with the element of air. I noticed that you got a nice mix here. You got air, fire, some water, some earth. I think it's both a combination of Saturn on your Uranus, so it's committing more to intuitive development and trusting your feelings, but also Jupiter is in an opposition to your moon, also very intuitive, very psychic. The moon rules your 10th house of career. So perhaps with Saturn coming in conjunction with Uranus, you're like, I want to learn more about intuitive development. I want to learn more about astrology. I want to pick up some tools. And it starts as a hobby at first, but then it starts kind of building and materializing into like, oh, do I start applying this more to my career path? Is there something revolving around this that could be a part of my future? Is this something that's going to be connected to my future? Notice that your moon is in Virgo in the 11th house, so of course you'll have astrology, and your midheaven is 29 degrees of Cancer. Girl, the next like month or two, really pay attention, because you're gonna have Mars, Venus, Mercury, and Pluto all kind of sitting on your IC, which is the most southern part of your chart. It's like the womb of the natal chart, and it's like a seed is being planted for profound change, profound emotional change. There can be big changes with your family. Somebody in your family can transition. You can decide to move. There can be this uprooting and picking up and pulling out all of the stuff from your past and any emotional blocks that you've been feeling. It helps for you, because it's Capricorn, yoga, hiking, reorganizing your home, your space, anything involving working with the earth. So like crystals, getting your feet in the dirt, cooking, anything that's going to be really an earthy element. But Saturn sitting on your Uranus for a while makes me feel like maybe you're going to be studying emotional patterning. I noticed that you have Uranus and Neptune in your 4th house. So you come from a family of people who are eccentric, different. Some may say a little erratic maybe, or maybe there's been people who have gotten married, relocated, divorced, you know, had kids, didn't get married. There's an interesting story there in regards to your roots, and really feeling like maybe there has been a lot of women in your family or in your mother's lineage that were into metaphysics, they were intuitive, they had precognitive dreams, they were psychic. I also have Neptune and Uranus in my 4th house, just like you, and I'm a Libra rising. It's in Capricorn, so it played a role in what I do for a living. In Aquarius for you, I think it's going to be about how you're looking at the family patterning going, maybe that aunt wasn't crazy. Maybe grandma was really onto something. She said that, you know, she had feelings, but maybe she had visions. There's something like that where I think Saturn's going to really help you explore all of your roots and your ancestry and where you come from. And especially Neptune in an 8 is about divination and psychic dreams, right? And it's going to start more as a hobby for you. And it's going to progress probably by the time Saturn conjuncts your natal Uranus to being like, okay, do I want to study astrology seriously? Do I want to study tarot seriously, right? Is that something that I'm really wanting to do? I also think with Jupiter in opposition to your moon, such a great time to kind of start just exploring hobbies and your natural talents as a means for being more creative, having more joy in your life, and possibly that could bloom into something that could materialize as like a real profound shift in the direction of where you're going with your career. Like I remember when Saturn went through my natal Neptune in the 4th house and Uranus, it was, I mean, like you, it's a Saturn-based sign. Little rocky emotionally, definitely lots of like uprooting stuff in regards to my family, but it's like I found out that my grandmother on my mother's side always used to go to psychics, and the psychics used to tell her things and like told her all kinds of stuff way into the future that was about my mother. And I also found out that on my father's side that my dad's grandmother was like Romanian and had Starbucks and was doing all kinds of astrology readings and was into like witchcraft and herbal things, and like all of a sudden it made all of this sense that I was like, okay, maybe I'm not as weird as I thought I was. Like there's some weird ancestral stuff going on here, because it all came into my life very suddenly, and I became very passionate about it, and I was really good at it. So Aquarius is still a Saturn energy, but it's about working with groups of people. So you may find that you physically are like living around people, or maybe you have a roommate or something, or a friend who's like, I have this astrology club, or I've got tarot cards, or like, let's talk about it. And it literally will happen within your home base in some capacity because it's in your 4th house. And, yeah, think about my study groups. That's the other thing. I did not announce that, but yes, if you guys check my website, or if you actually check later, we're going to have in all of the new videos, we're going to have a link for the mailing list. My goal is to try to get this out next month, start doing a study club, an astrology study club that's going to be like a subscription. And I'm probably going to do it for several weeks, so I'm not sure if it's going to be like 6 weeks or 10 weeks. I don't know yet. Don't quote me on that, but we're going to get that going in the next like probably week or two, and we'll let you guys know when it's going to start and how much it's going to be. But my goal is to have it bi-weekly, so it's going to be like every other week. I'm going to start teaching astrology. So if you want to learn astrology, you want to learn astrology with me, if you've known me from LA, I lived in LA for many years, and I was teaching tarot, astrology, magic, psychic development at House of Intuition for like years. I was there for a while. So since then, because my practice has been really busy and I've been working on other things, like I had a candle business, and I've come back on YouTube, and I see clients 4 or 5 days a week. I've been very busy. So I'm making the time to go back into teaching. Haven't done it in a couple of years. I'm very excited. So if you're interested in that, make sure you go to my website. We'll plug the link in at a later date, and you can go and sign up for my newsletter so you get a heads up as to when it's starting. Anyway. So for you, just focus on the intuitive development. Saturn conjunct Uranus and trine your ascendant is also going to teach you about why you have the relationships that you have, either with your roommates or your family. And Uranus is coming into conjunction with your sun. So this is profound because it's about psychic awareness, precognitive dreams. Uranus conjunct your sun in the 7th house is new relationships, but this is a whole sign 8th house. So it can be about you starting to get all kinds of contact from spirits on the other side. So I'd go learn about Uranus transit your natal sun. I'd go and learn about Saturn transit your natal Uranus. Prepare for things to get kind of spooky, girl, because you can start having some weird, not just clairvoyant, but mediumship stuff that starts happening. Both your sun and your natal Uranus and your ascendant are all Pisces degrees, which is about your intuition, learning to trust your intuition. You got a lot of air here. So I'd really focus on breathing, breathwork, grounding your energy, so that way you can tell what's coming through, that's clear messages versus anxiety, because that's a great way to be able to better decipher and determine what you're receiving, you know? Hopefully that's helpful for you. Let me know. Let me know how those transits go. Let me know, especially the next two or 3 months. It's going to be interesting to see Saturn conjunct your Uranus and have the nodes square in. Prepare. There can be some big changes in the family. And because that's your whole sign, 5th house, Uranus, be very careful with dating and getting pregnant, because Saturn's going to hit Uranus, that's your whole sign, 5th house, and Uranus is going to hit your sun, that's in the 8th house. So it can be pregnant with ideas. It can be the birth of new creative projects. It can be new relationships. But Saturn square Uranus between the 8th and the 5th can sometimes materialize as pregnancy. And you've got Jupiter that's in your 5th house right now. So romance is on the way. Just be careful with pregnancy. Hopefully that's helpful for you. We've got Brandon, Sherry, and then we've got D Cosmic. Thank you guys for hanging tight with me. I know this has been a minute. And then it looks like we also had Miko and Jillian, so we're going to call it a wrap after that. Brandon is on deck. June 3rd, 97. And that was at 3:55 a.m. And that was in Columbus, Georgia. You're very welcome. Okay, so Avong says, what you see involving love relationships in my chart, mostly natal placements, but transits if there's time. There's been a lot of isolation during my life. Okay, so relationships, we're going to look at Venus. We're also going to look at the state of Venus. We're also going to look at your 7th house. So off the bat, you've got a 7th house Libra, ruled by Venus. And Venus is conjunct Juno, okay, and it's in your 3rd house. Isolation, well, you know, you do have some Neptune transits going on right now. You do have Neptune at 29. You do have Neptune that squares your ascendant and your descendant. Maybe it's just me. I've become a little fond of Neptune. I have found that the isolation, I have Saturn conjunct Neptune, all right? The isolation can be really good because it can help you become more aware of your connection to spirit and spirituality, okay? Right now, you may not feel it. You're going to be more in your feelings right now because Pluto, which deals with your 8th house of psychological changes, shifts, loss, grief, anything revolving around fear, Pluto's getting really close to your Neptune. And in your 10th house, it's like, am I the only one like out there right now? Does anybody see me? You know, Neptune can be invisible. So you can be going through these process of really dealing with emotions of being like, what is my purpose? Why am I even here? Does anybody see me? Am I always going to be alone? When the truth is, I don't really see that being the case, okay? Your Venus does make a trine to your 7th house, so it does tell me that relationships are possible. Your love language is communication. So Mercury being kind of the ruler of Gemini, when you have Venus in that sign, you fall in love with the mind, you communicate, expression is like a big theme for you. You have a slight sextile between Saturn and Aries and also Venus. So that's also really good because I think that does suggest that you can express love when you're focusing on self-love. Now Saturn sits in your 12th house. And I think maybe that's part of what's going on here is that Saturn in the 12th house, especially in Aries, Saturn does not do as well in Aries, okay? It doesn't. It feels like sometimes it has low self-esteem. Sometimes it feels like it's the Lone Ranger. Remember, Aries is the warrior. He goes out on his own. He's fearless. But Saturn being in the 12th is kind of like this life of, number one, learn meditation. It'll become your best friend. Okay, it'll help you move through this process. But two, it makes you feel kind of like priestly. You know, 12th house is kind of like, you could be somebody who hides out and sleeps all day and you're up all night. Or you could be somebody who's just really focused on your own personal space and like really working through spiritual stuff that relates to yourself personally. Yeah. As Pluto comes into conjunction with your Neptune, the best advice I can give you, because Neptune rules your 12th house of isolation, is consciously going into that isolation, consciously going, I'm taking this alone time to work on myself. I'm taking this alone time to pray, to meditate, to connect with the collective, because separation is an illusion. And I think this is really a profound thing for a Neptune and Capricorn person, because Neptune and Capricorn is like, we have to work hard to feel connected. And even if you do, we still don't feel it. That's all an illusion. So as Pluto comes into that conjunction, you're actually going to find your place through a shift revolving around what your purpose is, especially in regards to your career. Roll with those punches, kid. It's going to get easier. Okay. The other thing is that Venus ruling your 7th house of relationships is in Gemini, and it's in a square to your nodes. You've got North Node in Virgo, which is here to help, heal, and serve. South Node in Pisces, which means, guess what? You got a lot of 12th house energy. You've been a priest, you've been a priestess, maybe you've been a healer, maybe you've been a monk, maybe you were in jail, who knows? You have some kind of history, karmically, of having spent a lot of time alone, right? And you've got Venus in a square to the nodes. People don't talk about this enough. This is where aspects are so important. Some astrologers would be like, oh, you've got Venus trine, you know, the 7th house, and it sextiles your ascendant, you'll be fine as you get older. No. When a planet squares the nodes, it's basically saying you must do this, you must learn how to integrate Venus. Venus is relationships. In the 3rd house, it's communication, it's travel, it's ideas, it's teaching, educating, sharing books, things like that. So actually, I think an easier way for you to relate, I love Jupiter trine, your Venus too, you will be fine. But your love language is different. I want you to learn about love languages. There's a quiz, there's a book, but there's like acts of service, quality time, physical touch, gifts, right? I think your love language, for the most part, I mean, you got a lot of Taurus, so physical touch or gifts is going to be up there. You definitely like your hugs and cookies. But Venus in Gemini is communication. It's like, I thought of you. Here's this here's this book. I read this. I really liked it. I want you to read it. Or let's read it together. So your love language is kind of shifting in a way where maybe through, you know, Jupiter and Neptune coming to conjunction with your South Node, it's making you realize that initiation is everything. If you take the step to reach out and say, hey, do you want to talk? Do you want to be my friend? Do you want to go on this trip? You can start building relationships, not just romantic, any kind, platonic as well, friends in general. 3rd house can be people that you talk to on a regular basis. Maybe it's about getting into the habit, especially as Saturn now is coming into a conjunction with your Venus, and taking the initiative and focusing on your friendship groups and networking, and just making more of a conscious habit of letting people know that you care for them, you're checking in with them, how are you doing? And I would start there. As Saturn is trining from your 11th house to your Venus in the 3rd, it tells me that through established friendships, you're actually going to build community and find people who are going to be more on your path. Also, the end of this year, Mars will go retrograde over your Venus. And that's going to be exciting because it's going to bring up the opportunity to bring in very significant romantic partners. Mars is your chart ruler. And you might find yourself connecting with somebody. It might feel very past life-ish. You guys might speak different languages. So there's something like that that might kind of expand for you. Thank you very much. Appreciate it, Nancy. I know I was missing one. But I would look into that, because I think that just on a personal level, if you realize what your love language is, you know, I've seen this like really profoundly shift relationships, that if you've got one person who's physical touch or one person that's quality time, the quality time person does not want to be touched all the time. They just want to spend time with you. And just spending time with the physical touch person isn't going to make them feel loved. So when you're able to figure that out and you can communicate that, I think reaching out is just a big theme for you this year, learning how to do that so you're not feeling so alone. This will start to clear out when Saturn, when you're over your Saturn's return. So I think actually I look at this and I go, wow, you're going to grow a lot. You're going to travel a lot. You're going to learn a lot. You're going to have so much spiritual stuff that's going to happen over the next 2 years between Pluto conjunct your Neptune and also Jupiter and Neptune on your South Node. Take advantage of the free time. You're going to meet people. You're going to be able to go to like sanctuaries, temples. You're going to be able to travel overseas. You're going to be able to go places and do things that you may not always be able to do if you're intertwined in a relationship, you know? So try to look at it a little bit differently. There's a lot to look forward to. right around 30, because you're coming out of your Saturn return and you go into your 7th house year, which will be about Venus. So that can be a very big commitment year for you. But astrology is like a locker combination. I've been on the other side of these conversations. I remember getting readings when I was 19 and I'm like, I'm fucked until I'm like 32. Just like knowing that certain things weren't going to happen. And I remember having those conversations. And now that I look back on it, I'm appreciative that I heard that, because at least it gave me some sense of like, okay, eventually I'll figure it out. But you have to wait until transits move and it clicks and it unlocks, and then it clicks another way, and then the locker spins, and then all of a sudden you can open it up and there's change. So some people hit that when they're 22 years old and everything comes together. Other people are 45 and then they get it. Your chart has profound spiritual insights that's going to come the next 2, 3, 4 years that I think you actually need, because it may significantly help you in not only clearing karma, okay, Neptune, Saturn, Jupiter, they're all going to hit your south node, but through that isolation, studying, going places, being places, becoming more spiritual, it's going to help you accomplish your north node. North node Mars is helping heal other people, being of service. You know, Mars really does like being in the 6th house, and I think you're going to learn some kind of healing modality, whether you want to be a physical trainer or a dietitian or a hands-on healer, you want to be a spiritualist, whatever you want to do, but you need that isolation to do that. So relationships don't come super easily until you've gone through that initiation. Okay? Hopefully that's helpful. Thank you, Cosmic. Appreciate it. I'm very reluctant to come on here and talk about this stuff. I'm like doing it in private, but obviously it's helping people. This is my contribution. All right, Sherry, let's get into it. Miss Sass. Where are you? I saw your info here somewhere. Where was it? There we go. September 8th, 76. Lots of Virgos tonight, huh? Galveston at 1:17 a.m. Wondering about my love, career, finance mainly. I'm trying to get my new business off the ground. Divorced a year ago. I feel like my life has started over. All right, so let's kind of go with what's most important, because everybody wants to know about everything. Love, career, finance mainly. Trying to get my new business off the ground. Divorced a year ago. For me, looking at your chart, what annual perfection year are you in? 1976, 45. So that's going to be all about your career. So we're going to talk about that, because that's kind of the most important thing. Hopefully if you like this, you come back, get another reading. You can always book a reading with me too. So annual perfections is a method that I use to make predictions revolving around what's going to be coming for the year ahead. To do this, you want to use the whole sign. So I'm a Placidus reader, full disclosure. So if we're looking at her chart as a whole sign, because she's a Cancer rising, it means that Aries is the ruler of her 10th house. Because this is the 10th house year, we want to look at when planets ingress into Aries or when her 10th house ruler, which is Mars, is on the move. So a couple things that I can see. Venus and Mars are going through the 7th house. To me, it seems like you're either really busy trying to focus on clients, or you're really busy working with a business partner. And there's lots moving and shaking here that you're trying to do when it comes to relationships in general and like working with other people. And it's building momentum. And you're really going to start seeing things come together right around the end of February, February 21st on, when we start seeing Mars and Venus connect and they make sextiles to Neptune. Now, I still think you're working through old traumas in regards to relationships, whether this is like old bosses that did you wrong or old jobs that didn't work out, or maybe even still healing in your love life in regards to your separation and still overcoming issues involving that breakup or divorce. So that's going to take a little bit more time, but don't worry. I think it's really important to be super present for some of the transits that are going to be coming for you in terms of your career. Now, one thing I want to talk about is joint resources, especially in March when Mars and Venus are coming together in the 8th house. I'm wondering if you have to kind of like partner up with another person to invest money into the business to get it off the ground. Like business loans, startups, starting accounts, like anything like that that's going to be about funneling money into the business to make it more successful. Mars and Venus there says if you need to take out business loans or you need to invest a little bit of money to make money, please do so. Maybe it's a time to look at your prices and your fees and what you're charging and really making sure that it makes sense. All those planets are going to make aspects to your 4th house. So you also got to cover your cost of living and just make sure that there's a fair exchange in regards to the amount of work that you're doing for your services and also what you're putting into it emotionally. Probably going to feel like you're kind of burning the candle at both ends, to be honest with you. When things start getting good is going to be when Mars and Venus are coming into a conjunction with Saturn. And to me, this is a time to really pay attention because it does kind of suggest that this is when financials need to really be looked at seriously, making sure you're not going over budget, making sure you're paying off any loans or anything relating to that, especially interest. This will be from March 27th until the beginning of April. At that point in time, you've got the Sun conjunct Mercury. I feel confident, you know, you're getting up and running, maybe actually starting to work and seeing progress in regards to your business, taking off right around mid-April. And I see a very busy time, and I think you're going to see success from this new business when Venus and Jupiter ingress into Aries. So this will be from May 11th, very busy second half of May all the way through June. June I could see as a time where you're like reevaluating and going like, okay, I made it happen. But once Mars starts coming into a sextile with Saturn, it's important that you start paying stuff off. So in June, you want to start paying stuff off. So make sure that you're doing that. The cool thing is that Jupiter is going to hang out in your whole sign, 10th house of career, expanding things clear until about October. Briefly, then it's going to come back. So maybe there's some kind of revamp that you're doing in the new year. So it's like you're finally kind of starting to get your sea legs when it comes to the business and feeling like you can actually make it happen. I'll tell you that as we go into the future, I think it's a great thing that you're looking at starting a business because this may bring you a lot of success and actually kind of be your life support for the next 2 years of getting out of the rat race. And you want to just be mindful that at the end of the year, Mars will go retrograde, which is the ruler of your 10th house. It's going to go retrograde in Gemini, which can materialize at the end of the year as unexpected expenses in regards to anything involving your business. So if you don't have any bills, great. You want to really minimalize and make sure you have as low amount of overhead or anything as possible. But still, for whatever business you're starting, the transits seem to suggest you're going to have to put some kind of resources into it, as crazy as that sounds, or that you're coming into a situation where you may be in a new tax bracket. So sometimes with Saturn in the 8th house, more money, more problems. So this can also materialize as you being in a situation where, you know, you thought that you had support, or you thought that making more money was going to be great, but then you realize you're in a new tax bracket and you have to pay more. Something else I would say to you is if your kids are paying your bills, you know, Venus rules your 4th house and Mars rules your 5th. Your astrology seems to suggest that that may not be the case, that in March and April, when those two planets conjunct Saturn, they may say to you, we're having a difficult time. We don't have it. We can't give it to you right now. Can I give it to you later? Can I borrow some money rather than giving you money? So I would just say be careful because Saturn going through the 8th house, resources don't always stick the way that you think that they're going to stick. Yeah. So if you're minimalizing, great. But like honestly, with Mars and Venus being your 4th family and 5th children house ruler in the 8th, you may not be able to rely on kids as much as you think. So just be careful. Count your blessings. Definitely be on the up and up. You're going to see more movement with the new career stuff in June. So hopefully that is helpful for you. Okay, D-Cosmic. I see the 2. I'm still in the beginning stages of learning. seeking clarifications in regards to upcoming transits later this year. Major legal implications taking place in May. Okay. Thank you. All right, so let's take a look and see what you got going on. 21490. So you're still kind of feeling the effects of Saturn. 152. Is that AM or PM? Let me know. I'm going to assume that's AM. Because it's 0152. So I'm going to assume that's AM. So February 14th. Happy almost birthday. Okay, so Sag rising. You are about to be 32, so you're moving into your 9th house year, which is definitely going to involve and deal with expenses and stuff relating to legal situations. Notice that the Sun in Aquarius rules the 9th house of legality, and Saturn's going to come into a conjunction, which is spending money on that, which may result in you having to pay legal bills or having to pay somebody possibly to cover you, file paperwork, represent you, anything of that nature. Okay? So one thing I would look out for is when Saturn is in conjunction to your Sun. Well, when anything is in conjunction to your Sun. So legal documents and stuff being processed when Mercury is conjunct your Sun, but that's about getting ahead of it. So that's about March 6th. When Saturn is coming into conjunction with your Sun, which looks like it's also going to be with Venus. Venus tells me that it may turn out better than you think, especially right at the end of March. But you want to watch out for Mars and Saturn. So this will be April 6th, really until Saturn makes its conjunction. And that's going to be at the end of May. Now, here's what's interesting. If you're in a Leo-ruled year, then you really want to pay attention to the eclipses. So things aren't really going to start heating up until the eclipses. This is going to be the end of April through mid-May, okay? And I know these eclipses are going to affect you. I don't remember the exact degrees, but I know they're going to affect you because I'm looking at the nodes square your Sun. So it's like, make the phone calls, have the conversation, file the paperwork, show up. And when eclipses happen, when you're in a perfection year that's ruled by the Sun or the Moon, you pray. Because big events happen revolving around those years with the eclipses. So there's going to be an eclipse May 16th at 25 degrees of Scorpio. That is in your 12th house, and it's going to square your Sun. That one's going to be a little bit of an ouch, especially anything involving the possibility of going to jail. Yes, that's possible because it's going to be in your 12th house, but we want to look at Mars at that time. So Mars is going to be conjunct Neptune, which is the ruler of the 4th. So possibly because Neptune is the ruler of the 4th and Mars is the ruler of the 12th. It makes me feel like if you did, it would be dragged out. I don't think it would necessarily possibly come up until the Mars retrograde. So the other thing is like I see you like kind of going, does it make sense to move? Do I go somewhere else? Don't run. Don't run, because when Mars goes retrograde later in the year, you don't want to deal with that. You want to show up, process the paperwork. When Saturn hits your Sun, you really want to just really show up and like handle your stuff. If that means showing up for court appearances, if that means filing paperwork, whatever, you got to do it. You have to show up. Don't avoid it because it'll be even harder later in the year. I almost wonder, depending on what you're dealing with legally, this is really similar to the other person I was just talking to, because Mars being conjunct Neptune makes me feel like you may be able to kind of get some support from a family member who can support you, be there for you emotionally, give you a place to stay. Or perhaps maybe if you can prove that you're actually working through the process of fixing whatever you have been dealing with legally, any criminal issues, that you may be able to get some kind of like house arrest process. Like you can actually stay home and serve some kind of time. That's possible because you've got Neptune and Mars colliding in your 4th house. You don't want to run, you don't want to hide. I could see where possibly you're thinking about doing that and relocating, but just trust me, don't do that. I'd be more concerned if you were having a square or a transit to your natal Mars, and you're not actually. Uranus is going to be trining your Mars, and Uranus is the ruler of the 3rd, so it's more about the more that you show up and you communicate and you talk about the problems or you face the music, you'd be surprised that you can get off a lot easier than you think. And down the road, when you have Mars in opposition to your sun, actually you won't, you'll have Mars square your sun. That's something else you want to watch out for, and that's going to be in August. And that also can be a time where there is a judgment, because I feel like if there is a judgment, it's actually not going to get drawn out until closer to August, or you don't actually have to either serve or do whatever you have to do until closer to August. That's when it seems to kind of come up. To be honest with you, also, you've got the South Node transiting your Pluto. Pluto in the 12th house is karma revolving around crime or anything revolving around stuff that you've done secretly or hidden. So the South Node conjunction with the Saturn square is about, you know, showing up and being like, hey, I overreacted, or I shouldn't have done that, you know? Talk about being a hothead. Yeah, especially with either things you've said or anything that you've damaged, okay? Because I could see like maybe damage going on with the 3rd house, verbally or quite literally, with the square from Pluto. You know, you've got Pluto square the nodes. And I just think that that's something that, you know, Pluto can be really dark and kind of nasty and difficult to deal with and very fixated, especially when it's in Scorpio. Or it could possibly materialize as being like, I'm rising above it. I'm not doing that anymore. I'm releasing it. Specifically, your Pluto is at a 17. It's about holding hate and anger in your heart. So I'm going to laugh if one of the requirements is that you have to go to some kind of like anger management. I would actually say that would be really good with South Node on your Pluto in the 12th house, if that's something that's potentially keeping you from going to jail or any other further offenses. Yeah, Pluto is squared your sun natally. So what I'm getting at is with the South Node going over your Pluto in the 12th, it's like you either go to some kind of center for dealing with anger or you end up going to jail. It's a karmic thing with South Node on your Pluto, right, in your 12th house. And Saturn square the Pluto square the sun and Pluto square the nodes, just in general, it means that sometimes you need to go to 12th house places, rehabs, jails, being isolated, whatever, to learn your lesson, to clear that karma. Thankfully, it only happens every, 18 years, 19 years. But I'll tell you, with Pluto square the nodes, this is a difficult habit to break. And with Pluto square your sun, you do not want to hold hate in your heart. Like, that's not something you want to do, because carrying that hate in your heart is actually going to materialize down the road when you have Pluto square Pluto, as it can be breathing issues, it can be heart problems, just a word to the wise. From somebody who also has Pluto square the nodes. Hi! Pluto's conjunct my sun and my Mercury. So I had to find productive ways to channel that Pluto energy. And it's actually materialized as me moving away from addiction, moving away from being angry, moving away from a bunch of stuff, and being like, I have to transmute that energy. And it got me really fixated on metaphysics and self-awareness. Self-awareness is really key with any Pluto aspects. So if you want to avoid in the future having issues with your lungs, or having issues with car accidents, or having issues with your heart because of the Pluto square to your 3rd house, be appreciative and kind of be like, okay, cool, I'm going through the process of working on being a hothead, because it's going to get you a long way. Saturn on your sun, if you show up and you take ownership for your shit, you'd be surprised. It'll go a long way. A long way. I hope that's helpful for you. Sending you good vibes. Amiko, 328.90. And And that was at 4:58 a.m. And that was in Torrance. All right, so I had a reading with you a few weeks ago. I had a few follow-up questions. You said I should wait till about March or April to quit my job before getting my own art career entrepreneurship. My question is, will I see any financial gain in my business at the start before I quit my job, or do I have to quit my job without seeing any sort of success? Also, should I be saving money right now that I won't have a stable business pretty soon? Also, you said I'll be moving, traveling, which I definitely feel, but I kind of lost as to where I want to go. All the vax mandates kind of make me feel uneasy, wondering if you can give me more insight. Sure. You're welcome, D Cosmic. Yeah, lots of Mercury-Pluto stuff tonight. I have this natal aspect, so Mercury, Pluto, and my sun are conjunct. So it's like not much surprises or phases me anymore. I've heard it all. I can tell you guys things that make your skin crawl. Okay, so Amiko, you know, it's you got that Taurus moon, so certainly this focus on being like, all right, I need to have security is a big deal. I'm also very sensitive to the fact that your second house ruler, Mars, right now is very close to Venus. So I would say it's more about being fixated on what you're building before you have the job breakup. Job endings are more going to be associated with your sun. So to be honest with you, you know, I kind of stand behind what I said. It may not be a good idea to kind of cut the job until closer to the spring. April, May-ish, you know, right when you're seeing Mars coming into conjunction with your sun and Jupiter, I feel like that energy you're not going to be able to stop because you're going to be like, okay, here I go. This is at the end of May. And the other thing I would say is that there's also just a real emphasis right now, at least until your birthday, working through some 8th house stuff, which is about scarcity. Uranus is about to make an opposition to your Pluto, so it's like go big or go home. Do you take chances? You know, something like that. Should I wait until I see some growth in what I'm doing? Yeah, I mean, you will see growth as soon as you start seeing Mars and Venus conjunctions outside of Capricorn, because that's at the job that you're in now. When you see Mars and Venus conjunctions on your North Node at the end of March, I get the impression that's when you're going to start being like, okay, I can do this. But I still don't know if you're going to take the jump until they conjunct your sun, which will be at the end of May. I would definitely wait for that. Scarcity feelings are expected because you're actually not just experiencing Uranus in opposition to your Pluto, which is like, holy shit, what am I going to do? But it's squaring your Venus, okay? Money, resources. And Saturn's coming into conjunction with Venus. I would rather wait until Saturn and Mars are off of your Venus before you make a jump. I also will tell you that with Saturn and Venus and Mars hanging out on your North Node and your Mars return, this is a period of time where it's going to require a lot of belief in your vision and what you're creating. And this is very strong from March 22nd until this comes out of a square with the nodes right about the beginning of Taurus season. When you're getting to the end of April and you've worked for about 2 months on some of your projects and you start feeling good about it and you're like, yes, everything is coming into fruition, and Venus starts trining your Pluto and you start selling art, and then Venus conjuncts your Jupiter and your Neptune and you're like, oh my God, this is too good to be true. At the end of April, beginning of May, that's when you make that shift. You, like a lot of other people from 1989 and 1990, I don't know if you have heard me say this to you before, but you have like an extended Saturn return because you have Saturn in Capricorn, Mars in Aquarius, North Node in Aquarius, Venus in Aquarius. These are all Saturn signs. So until you get to the beginning of 2023 and Saturn is out of Aquarius, you get a little sweet spot for next year before Saturn hits your ascendant that you're going to feel like you're out of your Saturn return. Should I be pushing out all of my work, content ASAP? I feel like as I go along, I feel like a big push, but also rushed. No, the problem is Saturn's up on your North Node and your Venus. That's why you're feeling rushed. Your creative process is divinely inspired. So you don't want to push this, right? You actually want to really be present for what's coming up for you February and March, because there's going to be this shift in like how you're creating, what you're visualizing, what you're bringing together, that you can sell stuff if a piece feels done. But you're also working through this block revolving around releasing it and letting it out, right? Mars and Venus in the North Node in the 12th house is spiritual art, stuff that is futuristic, different, unusual, cosmic. And you may start getting downloads and all kinds of other things that are very inspirational. You may also start finding that people are interested in buying your art in other places. So I would recommend selling this on a platform that might be international on the internet. I wonder if you can take your art and turn it into NFTs. That's very Venus and Aquarius. I wonder if maybe you create something that ends up being a hit and you sell it for way more than you thought you would. And you're like, oh my God, maybe I can make this work, right? It doesn't have to be all doom and gloom. You've already had Saturn on your North Node all year, so you're fine. I would want to be present for these downloads because I think it's going to give you more inspiration and you're going to be like, wow, now I have something very valuable in April, May. Belief is everything. Meditation is everything. Good, sleep. YouTube's awesome, actually. 12th house can be about you making videos, especially because it's going to be making aspects. It's going to be sextiling your Mercury. So you can start advising people, or you can start talking about your creative process, or you can start talking about yourself as an artist and building that platform. You have lots of talent. There just seems to be some fear with releasing it and letting it go. But man, Jupiter's on your ascendant. It's time to show the world what you've got, especially April, May, June. You have to keep doing it. Here's the thing. You have to focus on getting that momentum going. But I feel like as soon as June comes around, you're like, okay, I gotta go, because Mars and Aries and Jupiter and Aries are gonna sit on your ascendant. You have to just be like, okay, I'm doing this, here we go. You're not gonna be able to think about it. And money will be coming in because Venus and Mars and also Jupiter in whole sign will be in your second house. So it will be good. You'll see a retrograde where you're gonna revise in the fall. And then it's going to go back into your second house. And oh my gosh, Jupiter, North Node, Venus, Uranus in your second house. All your wildest artistic, creative dreams can really come through next spring. Big risk, big reward. A lot of it's about believing in your worth and what you're creating. Got to take a leap of faith. I would say definitely give it a shot. If you want to give yourself a timeline, give yourself the beginning of June. But I'd wait a little bit longer, because it looks like something really big is coming. I'm so excited for all these like Jupiter, Neptune, Venus aspects, because it's going to be like a huge renaissance. There's going to be new music, amazing films, amazing new types of art, new genres of music. I mean, it's like if you're a creative right now with all that stuff, I mean, I definitely feel like now is the time, What about moving? I have nowhere to go. Where to go? Travel is scary. Yeah, moving, I mean, I'm a little iffy with telling you to move. Traveling, yes, but I'm a little iffy with moving because you're going to have a Mars retrograde and a Mercury retrograde happening in your whole sign 4th. So you could consider moving more May, June, but Mercury is going to square your Neptune. So I feel like you need to travel around a little bit and see what you like. And then Mars is going to go into your second house. Excuse me. This will be the end of 2022. And Mars will be in your 4th house, but it's going to square Jupiter and Neptune. So if you're going to make a move, I would say you want to make a move while Mars is in your 3rd and it's in a trine to Saturn. So this would be in September, and see a couple places before. You might bounce back and forth between 2 cities or 2 places. If you haven't moved by Halloween, then you need to wait, restructure, plan on where you're going, or maybe you plan on going to another city or another country, and a move is going to be much more stable for you in March or April of 2023. Hopefully that is helpful for you. I also do relocation astrology, so that's something else, is I can pull up your guys' astrology and look at the astrocartography and talk about what places you could spend time in or relocate to or do business, or where you should travel to activate things. So I mean, it's going to be different in different places. So I think that we're going to see more crackdowns maybe closer to May, maybe in some cities. Otherwise, actually, the Jupiter-Uranus sextile may have us a little bit more travel happy until about June. So, I mean, I could see where Saturn coming in conjunction with your Venus where you're like, is it safe? I mean, I'm not a doctor, but I got to tell you, unless you're having like a really negative aspect to your sun, you're not going to get sick. And Chiron's off your sun, and Mars and Jupiter are going to hit your sun. So if anything, being out and about and moving around and being active and traveling is actually kind of good for your chart. Just my 2 cents. All right, so we got Jillian. I saw her here. 11/21/81. And that's at 4:25 a.m. And that was Puyallup, Washington. There we go. Okay, cool. Let's look at your chart here, Jillian. Divorce filed. Why is April, May going to be hard? Plus my gifts are coming here. What advice can you give? Hey, Alexa, you know what? I'm glad that you are on the live. So I never got an email from you, although I did find out I had a bug with my website. And there was nothing on PayPal. So if you feel comfortable, you can post your email and we can email you. Or if you want to make sure you're sending it to the right email, you want to send it to Candace at beyondtheveiltarot.com. So it's CANDACE at beyondtheveiltarot.com. Never got your email. And I also went through PayPal and I saw no PayPal transaction. So I'm not trying to be a stickler, but I don't have any transaction history at all, and I don't have an email. So if you want to send us your email, I'm happy to email you, so we can get just a copy of the PayPal transaction, because I want to see if it did go through, why it went through for you but not for me. I also know there's some limitations for PayPal for cities. I mean, for countries. So depending on where you're sending it from, maybe it's possible you sent it to the wrong place. I don't know, but I never got it. So let us know what works best for you if you want to send an email or if you want to give us your email. Thank you for checking back in. We did not forget about you. I just didn't know how to get a hold of you. Okay. Jillian, 11/21/81, 4:25 a.m. So she said, why are things going to be so bad? Well, okay. All right. Let's rework this a little bit. Lots of tarot states that April, may find difficult. Curious if it's divorce related. I'm assuming, and this is not me being judgmental, but you've got astrologers, you've got tarot readers that are giving tarot readings that are peppered with astrological information. Okay, so that's fine. People can do that, totally cool. I do that. I use tarot and astrology. I do both, but some tarot readers need to stay in their fucking lane and pick tarot or astrology and not do both. Just my opinion. So if you're going to come on my channel, I'm going to tell you what I see. Let's just take whatever you've heard and just set it aside just for right now, and then you can compare, because when we divine, whether we're divining through cards or we're divining through astrology, some people are going to get the same message, right? Especially if you're hearing it on YouTube. I'm not discrediting it, but there's a difference between getting a reading that you're going to read or hear on YouTube versus really looking at your chart and being able to see what's going on. So it's just general that you're getting from a tarot reader that's like, oh, things are going to be difficult. Here's why. Because you're a Libra rising, Mars, which is the ruler of your 7th house of marriage, Venus, which is you, and Pluto, which is about destruction, are all going to collide in Capricorn, which is your whole sign 4th house. So I'm pretty sure that not all Libra risings are going to go through a divorce, right? Or a Libra sun are going to go through a divorce this month or next month. Has there been issues in relationships and people separating or talking about separating and having a lot of disharmony in terms of what's been going on within the domestic zone? 100%. 110% for sure, because Libra ruled by Venus. When Venus is retrograde, she's not happy and she's going to nitpick about everything wherever she's going retrograde. So issues with the family, domestic stuff, fighting over couches, going through, you know, issues with spousal support, kid support, you name it, it's happening. And also, it's about clearing out all the shit. Oh, I'm feeling good with the divorce for me, not him. So there you go. So you dumped him, you're over it, you're feeling better. I would just say to you that you're not quite out of the woods yet, because these major conjunctions for Libra risings are actually going to start closer to the end of February, beginning of March. So Libra risings who have been unhappy, who haven't gone through the process of separation, divorce, or having the conflict are going to be like, peace out, I'm leaving. But if you already did that, then you're fine. And I think it's just a matter of maybe getting the last odds and ends and stuff out of your house. Like if there's anything that you guys have that you purchased together, there can still be some nitpicking over that. Think of like Venus things are like art, furniture, things that you guys bought together. There can be some conflict over whether or not you guys are still having joint resources, whether or not, you know, you're still paying living costs, that kind of stuff can come up. For Libra and Libra rising, you really want to watch out because there is definitely some drama that can arise, especially from about February 26th until March 7th. Okay, so if you're Libra, Libra rising, put that on your calendar, February 26th through March 7th. This is going to be when Mars, Venus, and Pluto align. So it's a breakdown and a breakthrough of old patterns. So it might be like, my husband always wanted the kitchen to be this way, or we always had this kind of color in the bedroom, or we always watched TV on Sundays, whatever your guys' thing was. And you're going to be like, fuck that, we're not doing that anymore. That was my old life. This is my new life. I'm no longer doing this. This is how things are changing. And we're starting new patterns. So you may still have to kind of flesh stuff out. Maybe it's about how you're having issues with him and you have to kind of lay the groundwork and be like, if you guys have kids and he comes over to pick the kids up, it's like, you don't just walk in the house. You knock on the door. We don't live together anymore. There can be boundary issues, and Venus-ruled charts can get a little feisty. So if you're a Libra rising with Mars very close to your planet, it means that other people are going to provoke you especially. It's about how you communicate. And it's happening in your third house. So there can be nasty exchanges, kind of short text messages, stuff going on in regards to how you guys are communicating. Maybe it's like you telling him off, being like, this isn't how it works anymore, or, you know, we're not together anymore, you're not telling me what to do. I don't know, something like that can happen. Before there's the breakthrough, and that's when Mars and Venus move into your fourth house and you're doing things differently. I think maybe it's going to be like Stella got her groove back because Mars, Venus, and Saturn are all trining your ascendant, and you're like, I can do what I want in my space because it's my space now. If I want to have people over, if I want to do things differently, if I want to stay up all night and eat ice cream, whatever I can. So I could see why you're feeling better because Saturn's trining your ascendant because you took out the trash, right? So I don't totally agree. I think maybe there might be one last hoorah at the end of February, beginning of March that you might have with somebody. But then things are going to kind of clear out a little bit. Now, another period of time is going to be when Venus, Mars, and Saturn all align. And it's in Aquarius, which is the future. So you're more kind of like, I don't want to talk about where I've been. I want to talk about where I'm going. And you might also start being more open to just being open to love and romance and dating again. In theory, whole sign would say that. I feel like maybe when Venus and Mars get into Pisces, which will be the end of April, girl, love is on the agenda. It's not a matter of whether or not you're going to meet somebody, it's when. For this chart, it's going to be really interesting when Venus and Jupiter come together in the fifth house, and maybe you meet somebody at a bar, or you go out and you have dinner and there's great music and you're kind of feeling in love. Maybe you go on a short trip or something. Then these planets are sextiling Uranus and Mercury in the North Node in your seventh house, and you might find that you fall in love very quickly, very unexpectedly. You want to feel it out though. You're just now starting to get the North Node in your seventh house. And there's going to be a North Node Uranus conjunction. So it's crazy because you might find somebody who lives in another city or another part of town. You might meet somebody who is like, I have kids and I'm also separated, but I'm super interested in settling down again. Would you ever be open to that again? I mean, you have nothing really to worry about. The only thing that I would say is that because you're born in the early 80s and you have Pluto and Jupiter on your ascendant, you can kind of be like judge and jury. So there is a side to you that's like, this is fair, this is not, this is working, this doesn't work. And planets are coming into a square. So the divorce was kind of like, it was in the cards, that was going to happen. But now it's about learning to communicate differently and not feeling like you need to be really sharp when you communicate and when you talk to people. You know what I'm saying? Like, don't be on edge and be like, I've already been divorced. Like, don't waste my fucking time. Like, don't be like that with people. Stay open, remain open. Part of the North Node in your 7th house in Taurus is going to bring you more stable, loving, committed partnerships. But one issue that you are going to face inevitably down the road is whether or not you're going to be open to committing to a relationship again and making big changes in your home. And you would say, no, I'm not living with nobody ever again. And I would say, haha, nice try. Because Pluto's coming into conjunction with your IC next spring. And somebody's going to be laying down the law with you, being like, are we doing this or what? You know, are you moving to me? Am I moving in? Do you want to buy a house? Do you want to do this? And I would say, next year, when you've got Jupiter and Uranus in your 7th house and that motherfucker has a big house and he's got money and he's just like, let's just make this happen. Let's travel together. Let's build together. Okay, maybe then. But I think you need a little bit of time, and I would wait at least until Pluto comes out of a square with your natal Jupiter. And it's not about telling people what's up. It's about having better boundaries and just expressing where you've been. The life of a Libra rising, especially when you have this much Libra in your 1st house, is the first 30, 40 years of your life, you're learning about yourself through relationships with other people. So the shittier the relationships you have with other people, the more that you're like, oh my gosh, I let this happen. Why did I let this happen so long? I have to focus on me. I have to love me. Then magic happens and things shift. So really it's just about asking yourself this year, what brings me joy? What makes me happy? What are little hobbies and things that I can do? Do I even know how to date? What does it mean to date? How do I go out there? How does having children interfere with me dating? That kind of stuff. Next year though, Jupiter, North Node, Uranus in your 7th is like, that's a daddy that's going to be hanging around. And that's definitely going to be something that's going to turn your world upside down with Jupiter and Uranus in opposition to your natal Mercury, because you're not going to be able to have all these anxieties and these excuses. When you find somebody who's not fucked up and is like, I'm solid, I'm good, I'm just looking for my counterpart, I want a relationship, and you find somebody who's got it together, the challenge next year is actually going to be, are you self-sabotaging? And do you let somebody come in? You know what I'm saying? So North Node in the 7th house can be fun. I'm not saying you trust everybody, but there's definitely going to be people who are going to come in that are going to kind of show you that relationships can be very different than how they were in the past. And it may surprise you how quickly things change, you know? I'm a Libra rising. When I had this transit happening for me 2 years ago, I was like trying to move, coming out of like a 5-year relationship, was like, I hate men, I hate everything, I'm leaving. And in the process of leaving is when I met my husband. We went back and forth for like 6 months. And then after 6 months, I moved. And then within a year, we got married. Surprise! So really cool things can actually happen with the transits through your 4th house that are putting pressure on your 7th. It makes the wheel of your chart turn, if that helps at all. Okay? If you need any help with that, you want to talk to me in the future when you get a reading, let me know. Thank you guys for staying, donating. Thank you very much. I appreciate the donation also. Those of you guys who have been watching, liking, sharing, subscribing. Whew. Is there one more person? No, we're good. Hopefully that was helpful for you, Jillian. Let me know. Hey, Kristen. She's like, yeah, girl, tell her. Tomorrow, I'm going to be back. I'm going to try to get it out tomorrow at some point before the end of the day. I'm very excited to talk about the full moon in Leo because it, you know me, I'm honest. I'm not going to candy coat things, but this is profound. We are dealing with some very big changes because this full moon is going to be in Leo. It's going to square the nodes. It's getting us prepared for some of the changes that are coming over the next 6 months. I'm really very excited to do this video, so hopefully you guys watch it. Also stoked that we're coming out of the Mercury retrograde shadow. Change is really going to start picking up. All planets are direct. Make sure you check out my website if you want to book a reading with me. Check out my links below, beyondtheveiledtarot.com. Sign up for my newsletter. There is a newsletter link that I have that we are getting ready to put out to sign up for notifications for my courses. My goal was like next month sometime when the transits are right. In the next week or two, we're going to tell you guys how long it's going to be, what it's going to cost, when it's going to start. Probably sometime in either March or April, we're going to start doing my my study club. So I'm excited to start teaching astrology. So if you want to learn astrology, if you want to learn astrology with me, if you want to learn the way that I read charts, we're going to do a crash course in understanding and reading the natal charts, and eventually I'll do more about transits and start talking about that. But sign up for the newsletter so you can get insight as to when I start doing that, and hopefully you guys enjoy that. Enjoy the rest of your weekend. Enjoy the rest of your Saturday wherever you are. Have lots of fun, and I will catch you guys here tomorrow where we talk all about the full moon. Otherwise, take care. See all of you guys very soon.